Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to break down a really fascinating new way to think about health in older adults, all based on this paper called When Little Things Add Up.
Let's start with a question that, a lot of us have probably asked ourselves. A loved one, an older person, has a seemingly minor issue, a small infection, a little fall, and suddenly it spirals into a huge health crisis. It feels like it comes out of nowhere. So why does that happen?
Well, the paper we're looking at today suggests a really powerful answer, and it's something called emergence theory. The big idea here is that you just can't look at one thing by itself. To really get what's going on, you have to see how everything connects and what new patterns emerge from those connections. Okay, so here's our game plan. We'll start with just how unpredictable aging can be. Then we'll dive into this new lens called emergence. After that, we'll get into the nitty-gritty, the actual rules of complexity. And finally, we'll see how this all adds up to a totally new playbook for patient care. So, first things first, we've got to get to the heart of the problem. An older person's health isn't a single, straightforward thing. It's more like a deeply interconnected web.
And that web is woven from these four main areas: the biological, so their physical body; the functional, what they can do day to day; their psychological state; and their social world. The thing is, none of these act alone. They're all talking to each other all the time. Being socially isolated, for instance, can make you physically weaker. It's all connected.
So, okay, it's a complicated web. How in the world do we make sense of it? This is where we bring in our new lens, emergence theory. It's all about seeing that bigger picture, the one that literally emerges from all those little interactions. So, here's the crucial point, right? When you have a complex system, like the human body getting older, it can do some pretty surprising things. Things you could never predict just by looking at one piece of the puzzle. It's the interactions themselves that create something totally new. Okay, so to really use this idea, we need to get a handle on a few key concepts from what's called complexity science. These are kind of like the hidden rules that explain the patterns we see in health. First up, nonlinear dynamics, and this is a total game changer. It basically means that what you put in isn't always what you get out. A tiny trigger, like a small change in medication, can set off this huge, massive change, like a sudden loss of independence. The cause and the effect are just completely out of whack. Next, we have self-organization. This is when the system just kind of figures things out on its own, creating new patterns without any central control. The paper gives this incredible example. Someone starts losing their hearing, right? So they start pulling back from social events. Nobody told them to do that. The system just self-organized into social withdrawal, and bam, that starts to hit their mental health. And that leads us perfectly into this next idea, a phase transition. You should think of it exactly like water hitting its boiling point. You can heat it, and for a while, it's just hot water. And then suddenly, you cross that one critical degree, and whoosh, it's a completely different thing. It's steam. That's the tipping point. A perfect and honestly pretty scary real-world example of this is delirium. An older person might seem totally fine, but their system has been quietly accumulating stress, bringing them closer and closer to that edge. Then, one more tiny stressor, like a simple UTI, pushes them over the tipping point, and they suddenly shift for total clarity to a state of confusion. And finally, there's path dependence. This one's all about how history really matters. Things that happened early on, decisions made years ago, they set a person on a certain track. And the longer you're on that track, the harder it is to get off it. The path reinforces itself. Okay, so this is where it gets really exciting. All these ideas, they give us a completely new playbook for geriatric care. One that lets us move from just reacting to problems to actually getting ahead of them. It starts by completely changing how we even look at health. Forget the single snapshot you get from a checkup. We need to start thinking of it like a continuous movie, tracking not just the levels, but the variability and the direction of change over time. And here's the thing. In this new way of looking at it, the ups and downs are the real signal. Those wide swings in blood pressure or gait speed, they're like a warning light flashing on the dashboard. They tell you the system is getting unstable and is approaching a tipping point, even if the average numbers still look totally fine. So this all boils down to a pretty clear 4-step framework. You've got to assess dynamically, look for those early weak signals, jump in to prevent those downward spirals, and always plan care across all those different life domains we talked about. And that brings us to cascade prevention, which is just so smart. It's about being strategic. Instead of running around putting out fires, you find that one domino, that one high leverage point.
like managing medications or making sure someone stays mobile, that can stop an entire negative chain reaction before it ever gets started.
All right, let's bring this all home. Why does this new way of seeing things matter so much? Well, it's about fundamentally changing what we're looking for. It's a fundamental shift, you know? We stop just treating symptoms or diseases one by one. And instead, we start managing the whole person as this complex, living, adapting system, trying to anticipate how it will respond and helping it build real resilience. So, if you remember one thing, it's this. Health in older adults is a complex system. And because of that, little things can cause huge, unpredictable problems. The key is to watch for those weak signals, for that variability, so you can step in proactively and stop those negative cascades. It's all about integrated whole person care. And that kind of leaves us with this final, bigger question, doesn't it? If we take this lens and we zoom out from just one person to our entire healthcare system, what are the weak signals flashing right now that we are completely missing?